Welcome in. This is your Jock Market Power Hour for this week's Fortinet Championship. I'm Rick Gaiman, that right there, Joe Idoni. And Joe, we're back at it again. Brand new season starts right now, sir.
What up, guys? 11 days. Is that enough for you, man? Is that enough of a breather?
It's a little too much, actually. Yeah, like 6. I think 6 would have been like the right number. 11 was a little bit too much.
Right. Well, we're happy that there's a very short off season. I'm excited to get back into golf. I know all eyes last weekend were on football, and some probably still will be, but we do have a PGA Tour tournament, the start of the 2021-2022 season. New name, same event though, right?
That's right. New sponsor. This is a fascinating event with the way that we've got the number 1 player in the world here, with the way that we have the graduating class from the Korn Ferry Tour coming up. I imagine there's going to be plenty of value in the jock market this evening. But before we jump into all of that, if you're stumbling into this for the very first time, if you don't know what you have clicked, welcome. Hang around. It's Stock Market DFS. We are focusing on the PGA cash market, which, Joe, at this point means you can buy and sell shares of actual golfers over the course of the tournament. And the phase that we're in right now, IPO, is when we're bidding on shares of golfers. So this is really your opportunity, Joe, to kind of determine who you're interested in this week, how much you're willing to pay for them, and then hopefully, if you get lucky, if things go your way, those shares get allocated to you a little bit before 9 o'clock.
You nailed it, brother. The IPO phase right now runs up until just before 9 p.m. So actively bidding right now, right? We're all in the lobby. We're placing those bids on players. We're seeing that price switch. And once that IPO closes, then you will be awarded shares based on if you are or are not the highest bidder. Like you said, if you're just joining us, welcome. We've got some old videos I know that you can check out, and some like really beginner level tutorial stuff. We did an awesome video with Dave last week, actually, since we didn't have an event, who's one of the co-founders of Jock Market, who answered a ton of questions about what has happened in the past year, where this thing is going, how shorting works. Like, we got into a lot of sort of advanced level stuff. So check that out as well. But happy that we're back for another active live Power Hour.
Shorting is available now. That means you can sell shares of golfers that you don't even own if you think that they are going to be going down the leaderboard in a negative manner. You can now short shares of golfers, which is unbelievable. A couple of housekeeping items. We are giving away cold hard jock bucks tonight, 100 of them in 5 $20 increments. It is very easy to enter the draw. All you have to do is comment with your Jock Market username. That's literally it. That gets you into a draw for $20 to the Jock Market. We'll give that out 5 times tonight. And then if you have not deposited yet, there is probably no better time than now. Use the code POWER. It is the best deposit bonus available. It is up to $50. So, Joe, I mean, if things shake out your way tonight, if you use the deposit code, if you win one of the $20, you could get $70 free, which we have seen is probably worth 6 or 7 shares of the most expensive golfer that's going to go this evening.
6 or 7 shares of the most expensive golfer, 20 plus of some of the lower penny stocks that we'll get into. And Rick, we've seen actual like testimonials where people that started with this $20 or started by winning one of the free contests where they give away free money, or used our deposit bonus and got $50 and threw another 50 in for 100 total. They're up massive amounts, throwing it all back into the market every week. We've seen some of our friends here go from, $50 to $100 players to guys that are now winning $1,000 a week in this thing. So it's been really cool to see the growth trajectory, and it all, starts small.
Yeah, absolutely. My buddy, who is, I don't think he ever tunes into the Power Hour or anything else, but he'll text me. He's like, yeah, I got into the free contest and now I've got, I don't know, $1,000 in my account or whatever. It's just, it's a very cool way to get involved if you're not ready for the cash market, although you can always dip your toe into the cash market with just a few shares. Joe, before we dive fully into this Fortinet Championship, the event formerly known as the Safeway Open, what we've been doing over the past couple of months is our market move movers segment. This is an opportunity for you and I to go through 3 different tiers of what we envision these share prices are going to be for golfers tonight, and kind of pick out one guy that we're keeping our eye on, one guy that we're adding to our favorites list, one guy that we are going to be paying close attention to as we get closer to 9 o'clock. So where do you want to start? You want to start with the penny stocks? You want to start with the blue chips?
Let's start up there with the blue chippers. Not many of them this week, so I'll have at it first. Look, I kind of like Kevin Na. He finished the season great. Obviously, third and sort of fourth coming down the FedEx Cup season. I think that this course can kind of set up 2 ways. You need to have an advantage or an asset, I believe, off the tee, and you can do that in one of 2 ways. Either you're accurate, right? You're sort of a plotter. You're going to get it out there where you're going to hit a lot of fairways. You're going to have a lot of wedges, short wedges in. Or the other way to go about it is bombing it, right? We saw Cam Champ do this where you hit it as far as you can. You go and find it in the rough and you have a 56-degree in. Kevin Na is going to hit a lot of fairways. His wedges are really dialed in. We know that he can kind of get a scorching hot putter, particularly on these, I don't know if this is a quote-unquote resort-style course, but they typically reward guys with a hot putter. I like it this week. I think that he'll be a fair price given the other blue chip guys right around him.
Let me tell you, Joe, I'm not a Kevin Na guy, but this week I am, because of all the things that you just mentioned. I mean, he has been, listen, you got to get Kevin Na on a shorter course. You got to get Kevin Na where angles matter a little bit more. You got to get Kevin Na on a course where he can kind of wedge and putt it. And with the play coming in, I certainly do not disagree. And my blue chip market mover is kind of one of a similar vein. It's Webb Simpson, because same thing, play out of the fairway, lean on your wedges, lean on the putter, and see what happens. And I just wonder what the sentiment for Webb is going to be, because by his own standards, and I'm sure if you asked him how his season went last year, he'd probably tell you it didn't go so well, right? He didn't win. He didn't win anywhere. He, missed time with COVID, missed time with a neck injury. It just was not the season Webb Simpson was looking to have. And I wonder how that impacts his sentiment for this evening. And honestly, for the next couple of events moving forward, we'll see.
Okay.
Mid-cap. These are the guys in the middle. Joe, the floor is yours.
Sure. I like Pat Perez. Couple of reasons why. I think that he's another guy who closed the season strong. 4 of his last 6 tournaments were a top 16 or better. So essentially what that's asking you here is top 16, 16th place plays out $4.50. So I think anything right around that $4 and under mark would be a great price on Pat Perez, maybe even willing to go a little bit higher than that. He's an aggressive player, right? He's going out there and attacking courses that reward guys who want to make birdies. He did that at a great rate to end last season. I believe 4th in birdie or better rate. Played the par 5s really well. He's on that West Coast, back in that sort of POA mixed grass greens. And I just think that his game was sort of trending in the right direction to end last season, which is a similar theme to why I liked Kevin Na. So I'm going to go with Pat Perez here in the mid-cap.
Yeah, you're not going to hear any arguments from me. I'm staying on brand with Steven Yeager, now coming up full status from the Korn Ferry, and he was essentially the Korn Ferry Tour's Webb Simpson, the accurate short hitter who, as he gets closer to the green, the better he gets. So you can see kind of the trend I'm building here, Joe. I think that it's going to be important to play out of the fairway from the correct angle to get to some of these pins. I think it is going to be important to hit those, 75 to 125 shots. And I think it's going to be important to roll putts. I'm building my portfolio with that in mind. That's the way that I'm going, which leaves us with just those penny stocks, Joe.
Yeah, so will kind of be interesting to see where this guy shakes out. I know that the odds are really long. The DraftKings price is relatively high, but I do like Luke List this week, and he's pretty low on both of those other formats. So I expect him to come in right around that $3 range. Long hitter, right? So he's got that asset that I mentioned off the tee where he's definitively long, but he seems to play, even though he has that length off the tee as a weapon, he seems to shoot his best scores on these shorter courses. Honda, under 7,200 yards. This should kind of fit in his wheelhouse. He's had a couple of decent runs on Silverado before in the past. I'm going to go Luke List as my penny stock.
Luke List, and I'll go with another L. It's Lipsky, David Lipsky again. I'm trying to snatch up some of these guys who are coming up from the Corn Ferry Tour for the first kind of full status, but this is not the first time Lipsky has played on the PGA Tour. In fact, this is going to be his 19th start. The guy had a top 10 at Palmetto last year. Remember that? I don't, but he did. So I'd be happy for another T8 come Sunday, this time on Sunday for David Lipsky. So just to recap, Webb Simpson, Steven Yeager, David Lipsky for me, Kevin Na, Pat Perez, Luke List for Joe. And oh boy, we can unveil the big board for the first time. But before I do that, a couple of things here. A couple of comments. Sheer Dog. Here's a great example. Here's a great testimonial. My $50 is up to $400 2 months later, and I'm a dink and dunker. Fun times. Boom. Straight from the chat. Testimonial. The other one was, I thought I had one more. Rich says, I just signed up to Jock Market. Looking forward to this. All right, let's go. Let's do it. Let's unveil the big board for the first time this season, Joe. And it is not John Rahm atop the board at this moment. It is Kevin Na, who has already cracked through $10. So if you are seeing our big board for the very first time, Kevin Na's current price in the Jock Market is $10 a share. That is asking him to finish 7th or better, because a 7th place payout would be $10 per share. 6th would be $11 a share. 5th would be $12 a share, so on and so forth, all the way up to the $25 payout for first. Joe, the market agrees with you. The market agrees with us. The market, so far, with about 30 minutes to go in this IPO, is saying Kevin Na is worth at least $10 a share.
The bulls are out on Kevin Na. It's actually surpassed my target price, so I may have to shift to another blue chipper. But look, like I said, the form's fantastic. I think this course aligns great with what his strengths are. And maybe you can sort of touch on this a little bit, Rick, but we know John Rahm has sort of been the poster boy for Jock Market. Do you think there's some leeriness given the Pro-Am stomach bug issues?
Yes, but I don't think there should be. Who was it that just did this a couple of weeks ago? We had the same exact conversation. These guys don't like to play Pro-Ams. And I'm not saying that John Rahm has removed himself because he does not like to play Pro-Ams, but like I'm not reading into this at all. Like literally not reading into this at all. And actually, before we move on, I think I have to make a correction here, because I think these payouts, Joe, I think these are still reflecting on my big board from the Tour Championship, and they are. So I'll try to get this updated. So I mentioned Kevin Na needs to finish 7th or better. He actually needs to finish 12th or better. So we've got to get my big board updated here, but that's a little bit more wiggle room for Mr. Na to be able to return a profit for his backers.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm on the app now. So if you go into that info button, once you're inside the Fortinet Championship contest and you type and you go over to the tab that says valuations, they are all accurate and up to date. So you are correct. It would be 12th or better, pays out $10 or more on a share. We've just got to kind of update our back end data here a little bit.
Yeah, that's just my big board. So apologies there. Now, we have known countless times since we've been doing this, John Rahm is the Jock Market king. Currently $9.01 per share. And there was the little news. He withdrew from the Pro-Am, did not withdraw from the tournament, withdrew from the Pro-Am. He's been the best player on planet Earth. Were you surprised to see him play here? Were you surprised when this field came out on Friday at 5 o'clock that John Rahm was a part of it?
Yeah, and the reason was Ryder Cup. Like for me, like I was just surprised that he's not there or with his teammates sort of preparing. We know how serious that European team takes that event. But maybe this was, who knows? These guys have sort of sponsorship alignments and commitments that they have to make. I don't know if that falls in that round, but he had such a tremendous season last year. All like battled to the end, right? Gave it everything he got until the very last hole of the Tour Championship. So for me, with the new kid and all he went through in the previous season, I would have just thought that he earned himself a little breather. But maybe he's like, I'm playing so well right now. Let's go get that money.
Yeah, let's go get that money. That's certainly one way to look at it. By the way, I forgot to mention on Kevin Na. As you can imagine, this is already by far the most expensive he's ever been, basically by a
Yeah.
multiple of 2, right? I mean, the Wyndham, he was $5.39. That's the most expensive he's ever been. He has $10 with 30 minutes to go in this IPO. We mentioned Webb Simpson in our market movers segment. Here's Will Zalatoris, our newly crowned rookie of the year, sitting at $6.93 per share at this point. And this is where we have to start, Joe, to figure out, what have these guys been up to? Is it a benefit that he's been off for a month? Is it a detriment to his game? Like, this is where we have to start wrestling with kind of the different narratives and the different situations for so many golfers in the field.
100%. And I try to do that like weekly, and it's so tough to do, is to sort of get your, play psychiatrist and get inside of these guys' head. And was he motivated by not being, being snubbed on the FedEx Cup playoffs and now having, a month and a half? The Wyndham Championship was the last time we saw him. He didn't play well. He played pretty well. It was his best performance in a while at the WGC before that, after the little bit of an injury at the Open Championship that we saw, which forced him to withdraw. I love Willie Z this week. I do. If I had to pick a side of the fence, I would say that he's been working his butt off. He's young. It's time for him to cement himself on the PGA Tour as an official card-carrying member, get those FedEx Cup points, and why not start off the season sort of with a bang, where we may see, a little bit of fatigue with some of these other guys. Like I don't want to like Rahm. Nah, these guys went down to the wire, right? They went through the grind of 3-4 straight weeks of the FedEx Cup playoffs. So maybe a little bit of a breather, refreshed Will Zalatoris. And I do think that he's probably one of the 4 or 5 best players in the field regardless.
Yeah, I think that's right. Let's give away a little bit of money. So if you have not dropped your Jock Market username in the chat, go ahead and do it now. We're going to give away $100. Literally deposit that into your account in 5 $20 increments. The first one goes to Earl O'Whirl. Congratulations. We will get you set up with that. I pass along your information to the guys over at Jock Market. It takes them a couple days, and you get that money in your account. So congratulations. You too can be entered into that draw. All you have to do is put your Jock Market username in the chat. That's literally it. It costs you nothing, and you might as well hit the like button while you are sitting there as well. There, to me, okay, so I think there's Rahm in a tier of his own. I think we can agree on that. Then you get like the Kevin Na, Webb Simpson, Will Zalatoris crew. And then is there another drop off? And Hideki, I suppose, you throw in there as well. And then is there another drop off to kind of the guys that we're seeing already in this $5 range here, Joe? Cameron Tringale, Pat Perez, Maverick McNeely, HV3, and Charlie Hoffman. Is that kind of the next natural tier of golfers here?
Yeah, I think once you in Hideki, we see down there right now, seems to be perennially undervalued in the Jock Market always, but he is definitely in that tier with Zalatoris, with Webb, with Kevin Na. Will Zalatoris, like I mentioned, is in there. You can maybe, like, the fringe guy there is probably Cam Tringale, because he played so well and was actually really good in the Jock Market last year. But I think after that point, there is a secondary definitive drop-off in terms of overall win equity with that next group coming up.
Yeah, I want to look up some of these guys. Cam Tringale. So let's just sort by date here. Yeah, look at this. Very good Jock Market player. He played in 23 cash markets last season. Average return positive 19.5%. His average IPO was $5.53. He's going to go for more than that tonight. He's probably going to rival his 3M Open or his Charles Schwab IPO, which is probably in the $7 range. But if this data is something you're interested in, it's on my website, RickRunGood.com. It's free. It's underneath free tools. You can check it out. The other storyline outside of the number one player in the world teeing it up this week is that graduating class, Joe, and the less information that we have on those guys than normal. I'm talking about the Steven Yeagers. I'm talking about the Grayson Siggs, the Sahith Thagalas, the Alex Smalleys, and Chad Rameys. Like, these guys that we might know their name, we might know a result or two, but we don't know as much. Are they an opportunity for value this evening, or should we take a slower wait and see approach?
I think so. I think you're onto something there, because we see so much of the prices and where these IPOs end up settling in at the end, at by 9 o'clock here, depends on somewhat popularity, right? A lot of public sentiment. How many times have you heard this name this week come up? Are they on your favorite podcast? Have they been a part of it? Do you recognize the player? Have you seen them with your eyes play on Sundays before in the heat of competition? A lot of these Korn Ferry guys, and frankly, I'm probably would consider myself in that boat. You're a little bit unfamiliar on. Like, they're coming in with great expectations. They're coming in with all these sort of high level ideas and hopes and wishes for the season. And certainly the motivation is all there with just getting their card. But if you haven't heard of them a lot and you haven't been following them on the Korn Ferry Tour, you could be able to find and isolate some value by just plugging these names.
Yeah, and they're good. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, think about one, they're all really good, and there has never been a better. These guys should have came up last year. Remember, There was no car. So this could arguably be the best graduating class ever. Not only did they have a super season, but they were down there longer than they should have been. Like, there's a really strong case to be made that this 25 or whatever that came up is the best ever.
And the other part about that too is these 25 coming up, this isn't their first PGA Tour event, because they had those sponsors exemption stuff last year. Like, we saw Alex Smalley show up to a couple events. We've seen Sahith a handful of times. Now, we've seen Taylor Pendrith come into major championships and big time events with some expectations. So this isn't their first run at sort of stepping into that PGA Tour locker room come Wednesday.
Yeah, I want to get back to the $4 range here, but MVV, Mike Van Veen, brings up a good question, Joe. Maybe you know the answer to this. So Rom has a GTD, game time decision designation. It says that share price is not refunded after injury news breaks, but I think in the past, if a golfer does withdraw before the event, all of those shares are refunded. I'm not sure what happens for an in-tournament withdrawal. And I also think that quote that Mike put up here that says the share price is not refunded after injury news breaks, that to me is a more global all sport, like basketball. That's like if your guy, if something comes out 15 minutes before a basketball game, they're not going to refund all of that. But I think a golfer withdrawal, I think they do, right?
Bingo. I think you have it right. I don't want to necessarily speak for them, Mike, on this, but I know that every time I had a player last year withdraw, basically before the event started, they were all kind enough. They sent you an email. They gave you all that money right back into your account. They weren't going to hold a hostage on you. And I think you're exactly right. I think that designation is across multiple sports. It's kind of like an alert feature, right? Like, hey, something's going on with John Rahm here. Before you buy these shares, search his name on Twitter, see what's happening with him, because something may be up here. I know they had that designation on like Josh Jacobs in the Monday night game for the Raiders. He ended up playing, but it's just kind of an alert. This guy could play or couldn't play. We're not really sure at this moment. So be weary when you're kind of placing those bids.
Back to the big board here, and we did get the payouts, the projected payouts updated, so we are rock and rolling. How about that customer service from the Jock Market crew? As we scroll down here, Joe, that $4 tier, not only has this $4 to $5 tier been incredibly profitable over the course of the Jock Market, cash market history, but there's a lot of guys here, and there's a lot of names that we are familiar with. Max Homa's here, Ches Reeves here, Hank Lebiota. Cam Champs won this event. He's currently sitting at $4. Who is catching your attention out of this tier of golfers?
So one guy that is, and you nailed it when you said this $4 range has been gold. We saw that all of last season, $3-4 range, particularly in PGA Tour golf. If this is your first time doing golf in the Jock Market, these guys have tremendous upside with the top 10, tremendous upside with the top 5. And God forbid they win, you're going to make like 700, 800% returns. But a couple of guys, like I like Max Homa. I think that he holds a lot of win equity in this range. He's got wins in back-to-back seasons, right? He's putted horribly down the stretch, but back on that familiar West Coast POA, I think can only help. A little bit of a breather from having a couple of events off here, may have refreshed Max a little bit. And he's just like, his talent level when he plays well, his upside potential is win. Hudson Swafford's another one right down there at $4.28. I'm seeing right now. Back-to-back top 20 sort of through that playoff FedEx Cup swing. Played really well, was in good form in both, seemed to have his iron play sort of really dialed in. And you see those last three starts, significant returns. So if he can continue that form into the new fresh season, I think that he holds some value right in that low $4 range as we speak.
Yeah, so that $4.25 range, which is both where Hudson Swafford and Max Homa is, that's essentially asking those guys to finish 40th or better. And I think you're right. In a week where some of these guys might not have touched clubs, in a week where some of these guys, needed the rest or needed the time to fix something, if everyone gets back to their baseline, Max Homa certainly is way better than a top 40 player in this field. Hudson Swafford, with the strength of this field or weakness of this field, might also be significantly better than a top 40 player. So that's kind of the benchmark if you're a buyer at $4.25, Joe.
Yeah, and what we see, Rick, oftentimes in these, I guess you could say weaker field events, is usually they're typically low scoring, which this usually is around 20 under par-ish, I would say was what we're looking at this week. And what that does, in my opinion, is really brings a lot more guys into play. Like these guys, they're all able to make birdies, but the difference between, say Kevin Na and Jon Rahm's ball striking and the 10th best player in the field at a US Open type course is significant. Like that ball striking advantage that a guy like Jon Rahm has off the tee and with his long irons creates a tremendous advantage for them. But these courses that are relatively short, where it's a lot of drivers, it's a lot of pitching wedges, like, Hank Lebioda can hit pitching wedges almost as well as Jon Rahm. He's not going to hit a 4-iron as well as Jon Rahm. So I think it just, my point there is it brings a lot more guys into play. And while I know you're looking at the odds board, you see Jon Rahm at like plus 300 or whatever crazy number he is this week. I think there are a lot more guys in play than an event where is really tough scoring, was 10 or less under par.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I want to continue to go provide some value, but I don't want to forget to give away some cash, give away some money. This one goes out to Rich. Rich, congratulations. We will get you all set up with $20 into your Jock Market account. Give us a couple days on that. And if you too would like to be entered into a draw for $20, it is very easy to do. Just go ahead, drop your Jock Market username in the chat right now. I've got 3 more $20 Jock bills to give away this evening.
Rich, that's our new guy, right? Rich, I hope you use the promo bonus below plus the extra 20. Here's $70, Rich. That'll get you 7 shares of Kevin Na this week if that's what you want to do with it.
There you go. I did not put that together. Good catch there. Sub $4. This is where things probably start to get a little bit hairy, but there's some familiar names. There are some new names. I see Harry Higgs at $3.62. He's had a couple of good runs here in Napa. I see Kirat Afi-Barnrat, who played well in the BMW PGA Championship last week. Phil Mickelson makes an appearance down here, currently $2.33. Where in this range could you see yourself allocating a couple of bucks?
Maybe a little Brendan Steele, right? Tremendous course history here. Plays this event every year. I believe this is where he had back-to-back wins. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, so back-to-back wins, both within the last 5 years, if I'm not mistaken. And he perennially plays really well here at a low $3, $2.85 right now. The floor is only $1 there. If he happens to miss the cut, he's shown the ability to consistently top 25 here. So I think that there's some upside at a sub $3 guy like Brendan Steele.
Yeah, I like that. He did not play the way he would have liked down the stretch, but you give some of these guys, especially the veterans, the guys that know their routine, Joe, the guys that know how to fix it, able to make adjustments. You give them a couple of weeks, you send them to a place where he's very, very comfortable. He's hoisted a trophy. It's kind of an interesting little flyer to take on Brendan Steele, in my opinion.
Yeah, can be just what the doctor ordered when you're struggling to go back to a place that you know you have success every year. So we'll see if Steele gets some of that bump this week.
Now, I think it is notable that the top of this jock market has not really moved. Kevin Na, 20 minutes ago was $10. He is still $10 a share. And just to refresh everyone, what that means is he needs to finish 12th or better to return his backers a profit. If he finishes 13th, he would lose 50 cents a share. If he finished 11th, he would earn you 50 cents a share, so on and so forth, all the way up. Webb Simpson has made a move as well. He's now $9.25, Joe, and John Rahm is still hanging here. Are we waiting for the rush that will be John Rahm in the next 12 minutes or so? Because if not, this would be the cheapest John Rahm has been since the PGA Championship.
Yeah, and look, guys, like we basically kind of touched on it. If he withdraws, more than likely, I don't have confirmation yet, but you're getting your money back. So if that's the concern here, it shouldn't be. Rahm, like even at $9 a share, Rick, what does he have to? Where does that pay out? What is that his expected finish there?
14th.
Okay, 14th. Okay, I was trying to find over here on my other screen his top 10 odds, but it's probably like at 3-1. I'm saying he's probably like minus major money to finish in the top 10 this week. If he tees it up, I would expect him to play well. Maybe a little added fire in his belly after sort of being snubbed, I think, on the PGA Tour Player of the Year award. So as long as the fire in the belly isn't a stomach bug and a food virus that he ate some bad Chipotle the night before, I think that he'll be just fine. And I expect him to pretty easily walk into this thing in top 10. Like if you can get him to finish 14th or better and make money on that, I'd feel pretty good about it.
You know what, Joe? That is a take that I agree with, and it is the take from a man who is both handsome and has a trustworthy face, according to Hansala. How about that? The fans. I'll give you a close-up there. Look at this handsome and trustworthy face. There it is.
This is the guy. Hey, listen, this is the guy that you can trust. I make no qualms. I'm not hiding anything from you guys, even though I'm going to be live in this thing here in about 5 minutes competing against you for shares. If I see a little value, I'm not afraid to say it.
Yeah, Joe's going to try to take those shares away from you here in the next, oh my gosh, Joe, 10 minutes or so. So the way this works, as we kind of ramp up here towards the end, and I'll give away some more money here in just 1 second. So make sure that your Jock Market username is in the chat. Make sure that you've used the code POWER to deposit if you have not done so already. But there is essentially a 90-second window. The 90-second window opens up at about 8:57 p.m. Eastern time. And then at any point in that 90 seconds, the IPO phase can close. So we are about 9, 10, 11 or so minutes away from this IPO phase closing. So you want to make sure you get your bids in right now. Generally speaking, it is a flurry at the end. Joe, I imagine the strategy, the tip is make sure your notifications are on. Make sure that the guys that you want to target are sitting in your favorites list. That way you have them handy and close by for when that rush comes, because for those who are joining for the first time, it can be a bit overwhelming when you're getting outbid constantly at the end.
It can. So make sure that you have, give yourself a little bit of wiggle room, right? Like if a guy's currently $8.25, don't bid $8.26 and expect to get those shares here in the next 10 minutes. You're going to need to go a little bit higher. What I like to do is put in a couple of quote unquote dummy shares on guys that you see that you're looking to target right now. You can bring them over into the holdings tab on your app, and then you can monitor how close that current price is to your bid price. As it gets closer, you know that you may need to pay closer attention to that particular player and add some shares or up the price per share that you're willing to pay for them. But you mentioned a great thing, that favorites tab is in there. It helps on a big field week like this, where you can sort of have your guys lined up where you don't have to sort through all 150 players in the lightning that is the last 5 minutes of this. You can have your sort of 10 targets in place. It makes things a little bit easier.
I love it. Kevin Zhang, you are the winner. $20 coming your way, Kevin. Congratulations. We'll get that all set up. I've got 40 more to give away. I will give away one more after this IPO closes and one more at the end of the show. So make sure that your Jock Market username is in the chat right now. And Joe, our lobbying did work because John Rahm has now matched Kevin Na at $10 a share. And it is noteworthy that Rahm is the number number 1 pre-ranked golfer. Webb Simpson is number 2, and Kevin Na is number 3. So for those joining again for the first time in a sport like golf where there are a lot of ties, Joe, that's important because the pre-rank, it breaks those ties, right? If Rahm and Kevin Na tie for second, Jon Rahm is going to get the full payout for the second place prize.
Yeah, so extremely important. So you see the difference between second and third. There is a $2 difference. Then, incrementally it comes down. So where you see a lot of times that there are 6 players tied for fourth place, that can be a $5 swing per share, which ultimately can be the difference between a winning and a losing week. And I touched on it earlier. I'm looking now. The odds for Jon Rahm to finish top 10, you've got to pay minus 250 on that right now. Like if you like Jon Rahm this week, there's one place to take your dollars on him, and it's not a fantasy site. It's not a sports book. It's right here in Jock Market because that's where the value is currently.
Yeah, and the other thing is if he finishes 11th, you are still going to make 50 cents a share if he stays at $10 a share. And if he finishes 11th and you've bet him to finish inside the top 10, you can kiss your money goodbye. You will not be getting anything in return for that. The rest of this board, is this shaping up as you imagined? Webb Simpson, Will Zalatoris, Cameron Tringale, Hideki Matsuyama, and then a guy we haven't talked about who I know is going to be incredibly popular this week, and he's honestly quite popular most weeks, is Harold Varner III. Ended his season with a couple of really good events in the playoffs. He finished 11th at the Northern Trust, 12th at the BMW Championship. I imagine he's going to continue to catch steam as we close in on the final 7 or 8 minutes, Joe.
Yeah, certainly a hot hand, much like Kevin Na and like Pat Perez that I mentioned earlier, coming in playing some of his best form of the season. I'm a little bit tepid on Harold, especially given that current price. Like for me, it all depends on kind of how this thing shakes out. I like Chuck Hoffman a little bit more, but for me, like if I'm buying shares of Harold Varner right now, and I see Hideki right there at it, I could pay another 30 cents a share and get a guy like Hideki and his upside and his level of consistency that frankly Varner doesn't have. I don't mind paying up for that.
$6.23 right now for Harold Varner III. You are asking him to finish inside the top 26. 26 would pay out $6.34 a share. And then obviously incrementally upwards the further he goes up the board. Are there any surprises? I think for me, the biggest one would be Mito Pereira, because I know how popular he's going to be this week, Joe. I would have kind of imagined him almost in the Cameron Tringale mix. He played incredibly well after he came up last summer. I think he's kind of the flavor of the week, the flavor of the month. He's the more familiar KFT guy that we all know about. I guess I would have expected him to be higher than Mav McNeely and Taylor Gooch at this point.
Yeah, to your point, I have heard his name a lot this week. So usually that public sentiment seems to carry over here. I just think that there's probably some other guys that if you do a little bit more digging, also off that Corn Ferry Tour, that make a little bit of sense as well. And you may be able to get them at half the price of someone like Mito. Granted, Mito had, 3 wins last year on the Corn Ferry Tour in like a 6-week span. So the guy can get incredibly hot. We know that the upside there and the winning potential. For me, the price point right around there, some more established guys on the PGA Tour, I would tend to lean, but I can certainly see, people going to that flavor.
All right, here we go. It's about that time. We are 4 or 5 minutes away from this IPO phase closing. So we are going to bid you adieu, Joe. We are going to go let you do your thing. He is going to create his portfolio. He's going to be bidding against you. Hopefully you can steal some shares from him. And then we will see what his portfolio looks like in just a few minutes. Joe, good luck. Godspeed, my friend.
Thank you. I'll see you in a few.
All right, so the big board. I'm going to take you the rest of the way here. And we have a third golfer over $10 a share. His name is Webb Simpson. He just got a bump. He is now the most expensive golfer in the Jock market. He is pre-ranked second, meaning that Jon Rahm is the only golfer in this entire field that is going to break a tie in favor of himself instead of Webb Simpson. $10.50 a share is asking him to finish 11th or better. If you think Webb Simpson can finish 11th or better, you are probably a buyer at $10.50. $0.50. And now it is a clear trio of golfers above $10 with Kevin Na and with Jon Rahm. Right behind is Will Zalatoris at $8.88. If you are a fan of the Rookie of the Year at $8.88, you're asking him to finish 15th or better. Hideki Matsuyama, $7.16. And Cameron Tringale, the only other golfer in the $7 range. There was a question earlier about guys who get off to a hot start. Cameron Tringale historically has been a quick starter. Off the top of my head, I believe he was third last year in scoring average in the first round. That might be an opportunity for you to buy Cameron Tringale, see if he can get off to a hot start, and maybe try to cash in on some of those profits. Or if you did not get shares of Cameron Tringale after the first round and he's up, he's playing well, maybe you want to short him. That is now an option for you, even if you did not buy shares of him here in this IPO phase. Hideki Matsuyama, $7.50, as I mentioned. The $6 range. Harold Varner III, Charlie Hoffman, Sebastian Munoz, and Emiliano Grillo. Charlie Hoffman with a 7 as his pre-rank is very valuable compared to the rest of the peers here in this $6 range, considering the fact that Emiliano Grillo is actually ranked 18th, meaning that there are 17 other golfers that are going to break a tie ahead of Grillo. Charlie Hoffman, only 6 golfers. If you're a buyer of Charlie Hoffman at $6.57, you are asking him to finish about top 25. That's not so bad. He piled up top 25 finishes last year. Charlie Hoffman, this should, in theory, be a pretty good fit for him. Then we see a couple of names that are probably more unknowns. We had the conversation about Mito. He's at $5.50. Taylor Pendrith, $5.26. Steven Yeager, $5.01. Those are all a little bit of flyers. We don't have a whole lot of information on those golfers, but we will get more as their PGA Tour careers continue to grow. By my clock, it is 8:56 p.m. on the East Coast. That means we are very close to this IPO phase closing, probably 1-2 minutes or so. When we hit 8:57, there is going to be a 90-second window in which the IPO phase can close at any moment. I just gave the big board a refresh, and I have seen no changes at the top. Webb Simpson. Is Webb Simpson going to be the most expensive golfer this evening? If he finishes at $10.50, it'll be the most expensive price he has been since Phoenix, the Waste Management. That was like January or the first week of February. Outside of that, we have not seen a price on Webb Simpson at this point that expensive. We are now in the period where this IPO phase can close at any point. It's a 90-second window. It could close right now, or in a minute. It can close anytime. People, get your bids in right now. Some of the cheaper values down the board in that a very valuable $4 and $5 range. I continue to see two-time winner Brendan Steele here, $4.95. Hudson Swafford, your 2020 champion, not last year, but the year before. Technically, this is 2022. Cam Champ is here, $4.76. You want to go a little bit further? How about Brandt Snedeker? If this thing turns into a driving accuracy, wedge fest, putting contest, Brandt Snedeker might be your guy. He is currently going for $3.91, which is asking him to finish about 43rd. Can Sneds pull out the magic and finish 43rd? I'm going to try to sneak one more refresh in here, but this IPO phase can close at literally any moment, and we got to be up against it here. But I'm going to try to get I'm going to try to get one more refresh in. According to my big board, the top four have not moved. Is that true? Webb Simpson, $10.50. Kevin Na, $10. Jon Rahm, $10. Will Zalatoris, $8.88. Those four have not moved in the last couple of minutes, which is a little bit surprising. We are seeing some upward mobility from Pat Perez and Max Homa. Brendan Todd seeing a little bit of gain along with Mark Leishman and Maverick McNeely. But this jock market has stayed relatively calm, at least near the top of the board for the last 2 minutes or so. And by my clock, it's 8:58. This might be rivaling one of the latest closes that we have had in recent memory here. We've had a couple of early ones.
I think we're shut down, buddy.
Is that it?
I believe, yes, that's it.
Shut it down. Shut it down. It's closed. The IPO phase is closed. So we are going to let the dust settle here. We're going to let the data refresh. We're going to find out what Joe's portfolio is. We're going to give away a little money. We're going to let the dust settle. How was it, Joe? That was a long one, late one.
It was a long one. The notifications were on fire. They were coming in as fast as I could place new bids. I was still unsure at this moment. You know, if you're used to this, you know, there's a little bit of the waiting game to see how many of those shares you actually got until they come over into your holdings tab. But we'll see that here in a minute here. And then live bidding starts. You know, bid, sell, shorting. It only has just begun.
It has only just begun. Let me give away $20 more, but I want to give the big board a minute here. Make sure I have all the latest data. Make sure that that's rocking and rolling. So let me give away $20 more, and then I have one more to give away. This one goes to Trenton. And Trenton, you're going to have to confirm this for me. So I see that your username is Shoots the Puck. It might be Shoots the Puck. So I'm going to just confirm that for me, because if I send $20 to Shoes the Puck, that might not make it to you. So
and we've done this a couple of times, right? Where people have put their handles in wrong, and then we send it to Jock Market, and they're like, that person does not exist.
Yeah, that doesn't. I should quick make a username with that and be like, oh, there it is. No, yeah, confirm that for me, Trenton. Confirm that for me. All right, Joe. So let's talk about who made it onto your portfolio for this evening, and I would like to find out how pleased you are with how everything shook out.
I'm very pleased. I got 9 guys, so that's more than I usually. A new season, new me, man. No, I was just excited this week. Had a week off, and I had the technical issues on the Tour Championship, so was excited to toss a little money in the Jock Market this week. I started off up top, and I didn't really go into that blue chip range, and I went straight to my mid cap guy at Pat Perez at $6 per share. So that's who I led off with. Let me go down from there. So a couple of guys in the $5 range. Your guy Steven Yeager got some Yeager shares, Yeager bombs. Brendan Steele, who I talked about earlier, was at $4.92. Doug Gim was at $4.72 a share. These guys are all showing sort of positive returns so far based on their sort of fair value projecting. And then I got a lot of guys here down in the $2, $3. So a lot of penny stocks. Here's who I got. Luke List, spoke about him. He was my penny stock. Roger Sloan at $3.50 closed the season really strong, right? Was in that massive playoff that Kisner ended up winning. So we'll see if he can carry that over a little bit. Hudson Swafford was a guy that I forgot to mention at $4.80. And here's kind of the last 2 guys. So the first one's Adam Svensson, was just really cheap, $2.75. And the last guy was a gut pull here, 25 shares at the very end. $3.19 per share on a major champion from last year.
Are you saying Phil Mickelson?
I did it. Yeah. I couldn't resist, Rick. At $3.19, I saw him there getting out. I was trying to get Cameron Young, this guy off the Corn Ferry Tour, and he kept jumping up a lot late, and I was getting outbid, and Phil ended up being like the same price. So I was, it was my last pull. Why not?
Pat Perez, Steven Yeager, Brendan Steele, Doug Gim, Luke List, Roger Sloan, Hudson Swafford, Adam Svensson, Phil Mickelson are the 9 that Joe is going to battle with. Although, Joe, that portfolio is small compared to Brandon Allen, who got 15, and even smaller compared to MVV, Michael Van Veen, who got 38 different dudes. How about that?
MVP, Mike Van Veen. Yeah, no, he's right, though. I might need to offload some shares in order to get some NFL money down this weekend, but or just go back in and get another deposit. But that's a ton of fun as well. Like we had mentioned, right? You can sell these at any time. You just check the bid price. If you see a number that you like and some positive returns, and you feel like taking that at any point from now until Sunday, you're more than welcome to sell those shares to your next available bidder. At the same token, we touched on shorting a little bit, but if you see someone that's overvalued and you think they're coming back down the leaderboard, you can kind of play this thing from both sides now. And has really, what I noticed at NFL Sunday last weekend, just up the fun and the liquidity and all the different aspects. It's brought that bid and that sell price closer together. So it's just more action, I think, on the table for everybody.
All right, I'm going to reveal the big board, but Joe, if you can try to confirm this for me, if you have it handy. So I see Webb Simpson at $10.50, Kevin Na at $10, and John Rahm at $10, but that did not change at all for the final 3 minutes, which I guess is possible. If that's true, I'm surprised, I guess is the way I'll put it.
Yeah, see, I only see their sort of live price since I don't have any shares of any of them. I don't see the IPO cost. But yeah,
Somebody
Wow.
in the chat who has shares of Simpson, Na, or Rom, just confirm 10.50 for Simpson and $10 a piece for Na and Rom. I don't even care that much. I don't even think the prices are wildly crazy. I was just surprised to not see more movement, Joe, especially for John Rahm, who, as I mentioned, that is the cheapest he has been since the Memorial. The Memorial, which he led by 6 shots on Sunday.
In the Memorial with like one of the strongest fields of the year. Like this is one of the weakest fields of the year. So yeah, surprising number on Rahm. I think what it comes down to, Rick, and like I kind of find myself into this boat that you saw with the guys that I took is how do you want to play this, right? Do you want to play it sort of just like with your stock portfolio? Do you want to play it with a little bit less upside but much safer returns? And like an S&P or something like that, that's John Rahm, right? You know the returns are going to be there, but you also know that if he goes out and wins this thing, you've got 2.5x on your money. It's $25 payout. You paid 10, still solid numbers there, but we kind of hunt on some aspects for something bigger, and we're looking to try to catch one of these $3-4 guys that has that 1 week a season. Where you see those massive returns and you get more of an aggressive strategy and potentially aggressive returns. So just different avenues to play. But yeah, certainly shocked to see not much come in there in the final 5 minutes on a stud like Rahm.
Yeah, we did confirm that. Those numbers are absolutely accurate. Just below that, so not a single golfer in the $9 per share range and only one in the 8s. That was Will Zalatoris, 888. So that is essentially asking him to finish 14th or so. 14th would be a profitable week for Mr. Zalatoris. And then the 7s, Joe. Which one of these do you like the most? Hideki at 750, Tringale at 703, or Varner at $7.01 per share?
It's Hideki for me. I don't think it's a huge, surprise that I'm saying that necessarily, but I just feel like he's in that tier that we spoke about of sort of the second class after John Rahm. And then you get a pretty precipitous drop off when you start to get to Tringale, Varner, Hoffman, Munoz, Grillo. I think that he sort of belongs in that upper echelon.
The next range, I think the guy that I'm really interested in, and we talked about it's Max Homa at 555. So $5.55, 31st or better. On paper, Homa should easily be able to surpass that, right? In this field, top 30, no problem. However, the short game, both on and around the greens, coming down the stretch was almost like my short game. It was horrendous. And I just am I'm just kind of excited to see how this shakes out, because I would not be surprised to see him be, a top 5 guy. I would not really be surprised to see him continue to struggle if the short game hasn't been fixed. So to me, $5.55, that's an X factor price for Max Homa.
Yeah, I think that, okay, a couple of things. I think that he plays better on the West Coast. We know that he's more comfortable out there. The other thing that is a little bit, hit or miss is he's got those wins at Quail and Riviera, which are long golf courses, right? So I think that the driver, while not always an advantage, when it's on, it is a major advantage for him, because in those events where he's won, he's just been striping it down the fairway. He's always been a really good iron player. I have him 17th in approach over the last 24 rounds, even amidst sort of a struggling finish. He's always a really good par 5 scorer, which we get the full complement of 4 par 5s this week, even though, only 7,200 yards, you still do have those 4 par 5s in play. So he's going to score there. You're right. It's going to come down to whether he's been able to clean up that short game a little bit.
Yeah, I'm trying to just go further down the board. I want to see if anybody really kind of stuck out to me a little bit cheaper here. I mean, there's a couple of notable names. Again, there's so many of these guys coming up now with full status that I'm really interested in seeing, like Brandon Wu at $2.50. There was Paul Barjan, who was actually even cheaper, $1.51. Like, these are the guys. And Joe, I think there's going to be a lot to take away from what happens this week and next week for some of those young guys, right? It's going to be weird. Where's the locker room? What's the routine? What am I supposed to do? They're going to get consistently more comfortable. And even if they struggle this week, I'm willing to write a lot of that off just to kind of see where they're headed in the next 3, 4, 5 weeks.
Yeah, certainly there's going to be a process where they become acclimated. I think some of them had a little bit of that last season. But yeah, I'm interested in a couple of those names and kind of seeing how they do. I mentioned Cam Young. I think Taylor Pendrith is another one. Both of those two are very similar in that they hit it a long way, right? So those guys for me kind of fit the Cam Champ mold in terms of finding a winner who are just going to hit driver everywhere and end up in that 80 to sometimes 50 yards away from the green and just hope that they've got an angle in, whether it be in the rough or not, that they could stick a sand wedge in there. So they have that very unique and reliable asset in driving distance and length off the tee. And we're seeing that with a lot of the Corn Ferry guys coming up. Like these guys all are going to immediately step on the tour and be the top half in driving distance. So the younger the players, the further they seem to be hitting it. So definitely, I think an advantageous situation for them in a week like this.
I don't have the full list of 25 that came up. And technically, I think there's more than 25 because some guys got like a win. There's probably like 30 of them or whatever. But what would you set the line for combined number of wins from those 25 or 30 guys? I don't want to go crazy and be like 7. Yeah, like this season, like 48 events. They're going to play all the week. Like is the number is the line 1?
It's I would say it's probably 2.5.
Wow.
But one may be it. But yeah, it's definitely not 7. But look, some of these weeks, there's the off weeks. There's like weeks like Barbasol and stuff like that these guys could show up and get a win. Sure. And we could see one of these guys break through. I mean, we saw it in the year where it was Morikawa, Wolf, and was there 3 maybe that year? But that was a really strong class as well. But it seemed that year was really top heavy where you had like the 3 or 4 big names. It just seems like there's 20 guys who are just set up and capable to be able to step in here and play right away.
I think people are going to be very surprised and very impressed with their game. And then also if you have a chance to go, I know the new Corn Ferry Tour schedule's out. They come to a lot of different places. If they're coming near you, do yourself a favor, go watch them. They're really impressive. So I'm super stoked. Final $20 to give away. This one goes to Burlocker, like Brian Urlacher, right? Has to be what that is. Congratulations, Mike. We will get you set up. That is the $100 that we have given away for this evening. We will be back again next week to do it all over. Additionally, if you have not, let me put the banner up. Use the code POWER, the best possible deposit bonus that there is. It is a full match up to $50. That is free money. Go ahead and use the code. Joe, any final parting thoughts before we get out of here and embark on the brand new, believe it or not, 2022 season?
Happy to get it underway, man, so quickly. We'll be here with you every week, 8:15 on Wednesdays, walking you through this kind of closing week of IPO for the PGA Tour. Like I said, we've got a ton of videos up on the page with little tutorials and little helpful tips and things like that here. So feel free to check that out. Follow, subscribe, do all those things that help us out as well. And we look forward to seeing you next week.
See you next week. Follow Joe on Twitter at TourPicks. You can follow me at RickRunGood. This has been your Power Hour for the Fortinet Championship. Good luck.
Peace.